Hi, everybody, and welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast, another bonus episode. Today we are going to go over the worst of 2020. So that should be fun, eh, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I am your host, and with me, as always, is my teenage son, Jackson.
Hi.
Say hello, Jack. There.
Hi.
Got to get that out of the way. Well, back in the lab with another bonus episode.
Yes.
A little delay on our worst of, but we're busy and the world's crazy and everybody's back to school, so...
Yes, I had to think of many mean things to say about Shotzy Blackheart.
Yes, this is...
Just kidding.
Let's not just make this like the Shotzy Blackheart Awards, because there's other deserving winners as well.
Of course there is.
So we're going to focus...
Not even being sarcastic.
We're going to focus on, obviously, the shows that we look at the most, which are AEW Dynamite and NXT.
We do have a few main roster nominees there, but it's probably just pay-per-view matches because we at least have watched those.
And I'm not going to lie, I didn't really consider them for my awards, but I also did the odd time I'm going to mention, if we include...
Really? You didn't even pick the one?
Nope. It's my honorable mention.
It was really bad.
And we don't know what each other chose. But and another thing, there's the odd time where I'm going to sort of mention if Impact were considered, I would include this.
You're not considering them?
You told me not to. We talked about this, and I tried to, and you were like, no, because I didn't watch it, and blah, 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 so then I didn't.
I thought... Because didn't you consider it for the best of, or no?
I don't know. Was I allowed to?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. So I didn't award them anything, but I did a couple times mention, if I were considering them, this one might have been in the running.
I wonder if Wrestle House will be mentioned.
So, yeah, probably, yeah. So, I don't know. You want to get started, I guess? Because we're going to do our banter on our flagship show on Saturday. So let's talk about this now. All right, so let's get into it. I think the first category I have on my sheet is worst segment. And that is, again, we're going to have some awards that are combined between the two shows. And
Kinda
then
like
some,
last time.
Yeah, exactly. And then some that are individual. So this one is a combined between NXT and AEW. Jackson, tell us about our nominees.
All right. We got Roderick Strong goes to the therapist. This was in the midst of his feud with Dexter Loomis. Kyle O'Reilly played the therapist, and now he is a main event single star. Really turning the year around. For Kyle, Shotzy Blackheart cries over her destroyed tank. This was in the middle of a match with Tony Storm.
Right.
This is dumb. Any segment where Shotzy Blackheart runs over Robert Stone.
Yeah, there was a few
of these, or the Austin Theory one in more recent.
We just got shot in the groin.
These are all very stupid. She said her dumb Shotzy speak, and also that tank is dumb, and just I don't get why this is a thing. So, yep, we got that. Tegan Knox's dinner with the Garganos. Usually the Garganos are pretty good, but this was not.
I didn't hate that as much as some of the other ones, or dislike
I didn't love it.
It's going to be hard for me. I like to be positive, right? I don't really want to be super critical, so this is forcing me out of my comfort zone, but I'm okay.
Any of the AEW's Mike Tyson stuff, because that was not great.
Right.
As you can see.
Oh, I also added, maybe I didn't add it to yours. I had Sting debuts in AEW.
Oh, yes. Yes, honorable mention.
Right.
That is my honorable mention.
And so that's your honorable mention? Do you want to go over your winner then?
Sure. Shotzy Blackheart cries over her destroyed tank.
Her first award of the night. Congratulations,
yeah,
Shotzy.
I know I hate Shotzy, but this really, I didn't like it. This is a grown woman crying, sobbing her heart out to, tears over a miniature motorized tank.
And then didn't it sort of make Tony Storm, she had to come over and console her?
Yeah, she was comforting
She looked a little silly
Shotzy.
too.
Right. It just was really stupid. You're crying like you've lost a family member, but it's a little tank. It just was really one of the dumber things she's done, in my opinion.
That is fair.
So it earns my pick.
So my honorable mention was also Sting debuting. I just simply didn't care, and I don't have any desire to see Sting involved in my favorite wrestling program.
Another honorable mention to Jade Cargill and Shaq.
Yep. So I just don't need to see Sting in my favorite wrestling show in 2020, and I mean, and so far right now it's just week after week he comes out and does nothing, and he comes out and does nothing.
A promising faction look stupid.
So that was my honorable mention, but my winner this segments, I guess it was more than one, was the Roderick Strong going to the therapist. I thought these were awful. They weren't funny. They felt very main roster to me.
It was one of those multiple in a show, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
And it combined with the fact that this was a top heel faction in the company not long before this, right? For me, this was the beginning of the Undisputed Era starting to lose some of their luster.
Yeah, and I was really sad.
I don't think they've fully recovered to this point yet.
I agree. That's fair.
It's a deadly combination of really bad and it received a ton of focus, right? So that's what I'm sort of debating when I give out these awards, right?
Right.
Is something that, like, even when it got to worst match, it's like, do you pick the one that was really, really bad or one that was really disappointing?
No, I was considering that too. I think I was considering that in my worst feud.
Yes.
Which is coming up, but.
And my first have to mention from Impact for worst segment is any segment you want to pick from the Wrestle House who shot Johnny Bravo.
Hey.
It would fit in there.
Oh yeah.
Despite them calling it quote unquote
yes,
critically acclaimed.
Because I actually did watch it to Wrestlers Court from Impact. That was awful.
It was awful. Yep. All right. So our next award will go to our worst feud, and again, this is combined between AEW and NXT. So worst feud nominees, please.
All right, we got Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream. This was Velveteen Dream's first return of the year, and this ended in the backlot brawl match at Takeover in Your House. Dexter Loomis versus Roderick Strong, which does tie into your winner for the previous award.
Yep.
And they also include a pretty crappy strap match, and. Yes. Yeah, this is not great, and it also involved Unspirit being stuffed in trunks, which is kind of stupid. Car trunks, that is.
There was a lot of
dumb stuff.
Bad stuff in
this.
This
also
feud.
did kind of tie into that backlot brawl. Dexter Loomis was involved. He shoved the other Unspirit guys in the car trunk, which is stupid.
Right.
Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes. Very similar to the other one. Also involved a crappy strap match, crappy cinema match, and made a promising star look stupid.
You can tell you did the nominees, eh? It's Dexter Loomis and Shotzy Blackheart multiple times.
Karoshina versus Nyla Rose. This was very early in the year. It wasn't outright horrible, but it wasn't entertaining either.
No, I was hoping for better at the time, for sure.
Britt Baker versus Big Swole. Britt Baker's great. She actually did some decent work here, but she was very limited because she was injured, and then that tooth and nail cinema match was not too great, and also Big Swole sucks.
Oh, we'll talk about that tooth and nail later, I promise you.
Kushida versus Velveteen Dream. I was very close to picking this. I do not like Kushida. Velveteen Dream was coming off the speaking out allegations, and then he was just not doing much.
It was just very
boring, but this was quite a low profile feud, so that's why I didn't really pick it.
Okay.
Imperium versus Breezango. There's not much to say about this other than blech. Imperium were the most boring champs, like, in NXT history, dare I say.
And we have liked them.
I'll talk more about it later. Yeah, and honestly, like, in NXT UK, I did not watch it a lot, but what I saw from them was really cool. And Breezango, I think everyone knows how we feel about Breezango. Yes. And putting these two teams together just shows the lack of a division that NXT has.
Right.
Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. Now, this feud, it perhaps was bad, not even anybody's fault, because there was that injury to Matt Hardy that may have hindered this feud a bit. And the deletion could have been better. So I think what makes this feud not great is not exactly their fault, but still, it makes the cut. Best Friends versus Kip Sabian and Miro. This has not been great so far, but it is an unfinished feud, so I wasn't really going to consider it. I wasn't going to pick it, but
they haven't really been
great.
Wrestling very much. It's just been a lot of brief
We
bad
are getting
segments.
that this week, though.
It's true.
Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae. Other than the great War Games match that they had, this involved that tank segment I did not like, and it just wasn't.
It had
great.
Shotzi in it.
It had Shotzi in it, and the motives were not great.
Yep.
Rhea Ripley versus Mercedes Martinez. There was so much potential in this feud. There's the horribly named Battle of the Badasses steel cage match that was decent, could have been better.
And they're both good wrestlers.
Yeah, they're
and
both
competitors.
good, but like I said, just so much potential here. Tegan Nox versus Candice LeRae. A lot of these are tying into our worst segments. This had those weird dinner segments, and there were some good promos. Like, I remember there was something that I liked from here, but it just wasn't too great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it did kind of have a weird cutoff because Tegan Nox did get injured.
Oh, that's right. Of course, she always gets injured.
And then Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. We'll talk about that soon.
Yep. All right. So my honorable mention for this one was Loomis versus Grimes. Just because it made Grimes look silly, and I love Grimes.
Yep.
And I fear that this is like the starting point of him being labeled a comedy performer, which he is still sort of
and
doing
it had
mostly.
the Haunted House of Terror match with like the non-finish.
Yes. And I just
much
think,
like another Terrible Sin match.
I just think this feud is like lowering Grimes' ceiling a little bit with the company, and I think he's awesome. So I would like that he has all options available before him, not just comedy.
Yeah.
But the winner for me, and this is the only one you know because we just chatted about this one before we started recording.
I almost forgot about this.
I chose Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. A, I don't want main roster people on NXT.
Yep.
B, there really wasn't. It should have been a star-making feud, right, for Ripley.
Yep.
She's a can't-miss talent, and this feud was mostly each woman visiting the other show, and then Ripley just getting soundly defeated at WrestleMania. And I don't think she's fully recovered from that loss yet, to be honest. Like, she's on the cusp of rebuilding from that, right? She's looking pretty good right now, but still, that was a star-making time, and they really missed it. And that was, I think, because that feud set Ripley back so much, and I think she's so good. And again, I don't want Charlotte Flair on my NXT. That is my choice for worst feud of the year. You?
I also did pick this. I originally forgot about it, but you mentioned it. I thought you made a good point, and I agree.
I
was
do.
originally gonna pick Kushida versus Velveteen Dream, but it was kind of a low-profile feud, and this one was worse. Rhea Ripley, off the end of 2019, she was on fire.
Like, can't miss. How could you not?
She was off a red-hot feud with Shayna Baszler, and she was riding high as the champion. And then she came to Raw to tell Charlotte to challenge her, which I think was kind of a stupid mistake. It's like, when you win a title, don't challenge Triple H, don't challenge Randy Orton, don't challenge Charlotte Flair. Just don't challenge those people when you're a champion. If you want to, or Roman Reigns, you don't want to challenge those people if you want to stay champion.
I never ever assume that Charlotte Flair is going to lose in any match. I assume she's
unless
just
it's
winning.
Sasha Banks
she's winning,
or
right?
Bayley. They have like a better chance than most. Anyways, this was always going to probably go bad for Ripley. The match was whatever. It was an empty arena match, so blech already.
Yep.
And the wrong outcome, no matter who you are, I think it was the wrong outcome. I think just, again, main roster person in NXT, and then this resulted in
a huge step back for a star.
A huge step back for Ripley, just a drop in prominence. She kind of hovered in the title picture. She was the one who took the pin for Io Shirai's championship win. But Charlotte just really was a detriment to NXT. There was no real benefit to this. You could say, like, name value for NXT, but honestly, I don't even think it's that big of a deal for NXT. It just really hindered the NXT and Rhea Ripley.
I don't think it moved the ratings much, or it probably would have lasted longer.
And it wasn't even an entertaining feud at all. So.
And I will throw in another Impact interruption here, that if we were considering them, it probably win or be really close is the Moose EC3.
Oh.
It was a disastrous feud culminating in an awful match.
From what I've
it also
seen,
had
Callahan and Edwards has been
some
pretty bad too.
Some really terrible promos and segments from EC3, I thought, in there. So that would be, if we were considering Impact, that would be in the running at least.
Nice.
All right, our next award is another combined award between the two shows, and that is our worst on the mic. Nominees?
We got Jake Hager.
He's never great, although his last few I haven't complained too much.
Yeah, he has a speech impediment, I think, which I'm not criticizing that.
Yeah, it's
but
just
he's
a
just
fact.
not a great speaker.
Nope.
Neither is Brian Cage, but luckily he is a good manager, but yet he still feels...
And he'll get like one line and it's still bad, you know?
Right. Lance Archer...
Similar, see Brian Cage.
Right. As great as he is, he's also got a good manager, so he doesn't need to talk. Ember Moon has improved, much like Jake Hager has improved very much, but for the majority of her career and majority of this year, not been great. And Toni Storm, I cringe a lot at her promos. They're just not great. And speaking of cringe, Shotzy Blackheart, I don't need to say much. Y'all already know.
Right. I didn't even have an honorable mention here because I thought they were all pretty much similar other than my choice. And my choice, and it's unfortunate because other than this one skill that I think she lacks, she is fantastic. And that, unfortunately, is Ember Moon. She had been gone so long, right? Like over a year. I figured she'd had so much time to improve on this and work on this.
To her credit, she did improve a bit and improved in ring very much. She
never sounds comfortable. Her voice and her words don't match her look, her attitude, the rest of the whatever character she's presenting. She's hasn't figured out the character yet on the mic, and it's too bad because mic and character work are the only other thing I think she needs. I feel badly every time she speaks because it takes away from her overall presentation for me. So unfortunately, I'm not happy to say it, but my worst on the mic this year is Ember Moon.
Nice.
You? Come on. We know who you're saying.
Honorable mention to Toni Storm.
She is not good. I agree.
Shotzy Blackheart.
There
Her
you go.
promos make me cringe every time. She howls. She screams stupid phrases. Do you remember the first promo package of hers we saw? Do you remember?
No.
Like, after the Royal Rumble when she debuted, remember, like, she had, like, the tank, and remember we cringed so hard? And that was her first promo. Literally, ever since the first time I have seen her speak, I have cringed. And when she cuts a good promo...
That's what I was just going to say. Then she howls and ruins
or does something stupid and ruins it. She can't even let a good promo be good.
Sorry, Shotzy.
As much as I hate her, even when I try to give her credit for a good promo, she screws it up. So I honestly can't find a good part in her promos.
Remember during sound check when I say you don't talk nearly as loud? So this is the volume you need to bring to the sound check, man. Because this... But anyways, it's going to work fine.
Shotzy.
I'll fix it. Sorry, Shotzy. All right. Again, an Impact interruption, as I'm going to call it here. EC3 would win hands down here if we were including Impact. He had frequent, lengthy, incoherent, like Bray Wyatt, but not even interesting promos that meant nothing. And the kicker is it's across two promotions, right? I got to watch that in Impact and then a little bit of ROH as well.
And he used to be good.
I like EC3. I say it all the time. But this character or whoever's doing this for him or himself, it's just rambling and it's not interesting. So he would win if he were included, but we'll move on.
Well, I'm surprised you're not mentioning Alicia Edwards.
She doesn't really play a big enough role for me, and I'm tired of being mean to her. She seems lovely. I don't understand.
I'll never get tired of being mean to Shotzi Blackheart because she's just too terrible.
All right, so our next award will be for Worst Cinematch, and this is combined. And for Jackson, he's going to include main roster pay-per-views as well. So go ahead.
The first one, I was almost certain I was going to pick this. And I'm not sure what you picked, but I guess we'll see. I really didn't like it. The Street Profits and Vikings Brawl. This wasn't even an official match. It was a brawl that took place before a match, so then the match never happened. This involved, like, they were fighting, and then there was, like, a turkey leg, because Ivar's weird now, and there was Akira Tozawa and, like, ninjas. I think one of them was Omos. It was just, there's so many parts, and it wasn't even a match.
It was, and I'll say this now. This was the closest one to me choosing something from main roster.
It was so bad.
When we watched this, I was groaning out loud multiple times. I was getting angry. It was infuriatingly bad in my opinion. It was. But it's the closest one from anything main roster to me choosing it. It was almost so bad I had no choice, but I still went a different route.
Yeah, me too. I did it like the last second. I was so close to picking this. I don't think out of all the awards we've done, I don't think I was ever this close to picking like one thing or the other. Next we have Britt Baker versus Big Swole, tooth and nail match from AEW All Out 2020. Obviously 2020, whatever.
It's okay.
This was fine. Again, Britt Baker's injured, so we'll cut her a bit of slack. But still, this was
I did not think it was
necessary.
Fine. I thought it was pretty bad.
It was bad. I'm just saying, like, considering they had her wrestling, she was whatever.
Yep.
It was whatever.
Keep going.
Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes, Haunted House of Terror. Another non-match. At least this one, though, unlike the main roster one, was scheduled to be a match, and it just never had the ring bell end, and there's no ref, aside from a zombie.
Right. No ref, no finish.
Air quotes.
Yeah.
This was really bad. Made Grimes look so stupid. I hated it.
Yep. Carry on.
Next, we have, in my opinion, the second worst main roster one. The Money in the Bank ladder match. And it pains me to say that. Pains me. But this was really bad. This Money in the Bank ladder match, I don't even know how you could call it a Money in the Bank ladder match, except for the fact that you had to climb a ladder at the end. They literally started in the bottom of the, what do they call it? The Titan Tower? No.
I don't know.
The WWE corporate HQ or whatever. The Connecticut building. And like then they'd have to battle their way up to the roof where then there's the ring and the briefcase. Fine, whatever. And then there's a food fight at one point.
Yep.
And there was like AJ Styles being afraid of a room because it reminded him of the Boneyard match.
Didn't Asuka take an elevator and it only got her there like half a second before anybody else?
Yeah, and then you had Baron Corbin throwing Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio off the roof. So essentially you have a guy murdering two people.
He did. Yes, Rey Mysterio died that day.
Is he gonna... And then also he had his eye extracted.
He did. He had a rough year in 2020.
So, is he gonna win his freedom in a one-on-one match
He might.
with Tommy Dreamer?
He might.
And then you had Otis winning the match by accident.
Yes. Fell right into his
Next, we
hands.
had Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman swamp fight. This was not very good.
It was not.
The only thing I liked about it was the Fiend returning.
I did not like it at all.
Then Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. This was not good. It was like in a small dinky place.
And considering it's those two guys,
yeah,
that's tough.
And we didn't. I don't think we wrote it down, but I just because I thought about it. Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio, the eye for an eye match. It was kind of animated, I guess.
Yeah, there was some
but
extra bits there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I told you my honorable mention was the Street Profits Viking Raiders, but because I did really want to focus on the shows that we look at in depth, I even went back and watched this match. And it's Britt Baker versus Swole in the tooth and nail match.
Really?
So Baker wasn't fully healed, as you said. So they went with this terrible idea to do a Cinematch instead.
I want to cut them slack because she was injured, but it's one of those things where then just don't do it.
Go watch it again. There's a cup. I don't know if you remember this. There's a cupboard full of chattering novelty teeth.
I kind of remember.
There's really weak-looking brawling. It's just like forearms and punches. A drill attack where she so intentionally misses Swole, and it doesn't even have a drill bit on it. It has a screwdriver attachment, which is just a little thing, but it really, really irked me. A syringe to Britt's leg, right, to put her to sleep, or to put her leg to sleep, and then the finish was a gas mask that makes her pass out in like a few seconds. This was like ridiculous stuff piled on top of ridiculous stuff. I did watch it again. It was as bad as I remembered, so I chose that for my worst Cinematch of the year.
I think you might find my pick interesting, but honorable mention that Street Profits Viking Raiders thing. It was abysmal.
It was.
I was originally going to pick it because it was genuinely horrible and pointless.
Yep.
But then I thought about how much this one sucked, and that's Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, and how crazy that is.
And how disappointing it is,
yeah,
right?
In 2018, if someone had told me Ciampa and Gargano would have a bad match, I would have laughed my butt off. And that's why I picked this as the worst. This is the feud of 2018. This is one of the greatest feuds in NXT history. And here it is in 2020 with the roles stupidly reversed. Gargano's a heel, Ciampa's a face. Now Gargano's doing good now, but why is Ciampa a babyface? That's just dumb. And it's in a Cinematch format, and it's nothing like the 2018 Classics. It was just horrible. I mean, Candice LeRae turning heel is fine, but it was in a small, almost like a warehouse. It was kind of like the EC3 Moose thing without people banging the ring mat.
Right.
It was just dark and it was so bad, and then it was just really bad. And another honorable mention to Money in the Bank for being confusing, stupid, and having a stupid winner.
And my Impact interruption, you just sort of mentioned it again. If it were under consideration, Moose EC3 from Bound for Glory. Everything about this match was bad. The build, as I talked about, the music that was underneath it, the bystanders, the match itself.
Banging the mat.
It was a regular match that they were trying to make feel like something special by adding all these things that added nothing. There was no real finish at the end. It was for a belt in a company that no longer exists. I couldn't stand. I was telling you, I was listening to an Impact podcast earlier today, and they chose this as, it wasn't match of the year, but it was like dream match, or I can't remember how they described it, but it was basically saying that this match was fantastic, and I was shocked to hear that from anyone. But anyways, that would have been in the running if it were considered.
Mm-hmm.
Our next category is worst NXT match.
Oof.
Right? And we got a few nominees here, so go ahead, tell us.
First is my Cinematch pick, Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. I just talked about this. It was bad, and especially considered these guys had one of the greatest feuds I've ever seen. This was really disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes gets another mention. The Hunter Esoterra, blech. Breezango versus Imperium gets on the list twice because they had two different matches. Both of them sucked.
Yep.
Dexter Loomis versus Roderick Strong strap match. I talked about this. This was not good. Shotzi Blackheart versus Io Shirai. It's Shotzi Blackheart. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Shotzi Blackheart versus Raquel Gonzalez in a crap ladder match. And Shotzi Blackheart versus Indy Hartwell from December 17th. Good job, Shotzi. You're so great.
All right. So I didn't really do an honorable mention because I didn't really hate anything. So I went back and watched this one too because it was on, I told you I was on the forums of another site somewhere and they had listed they sort of asked people what they thought their worst of NXT was. And I didn't remember this match, so I went back and watched it, and it was really bad. And again, I'm sort of going against my usual, like, it got lots of attention, or it wasn't. This was just a match on an NXT, and it was Shotzy versus Indy Hartwell.
Really?
Yeah, this
It
match
is quite recent, actually.
this match wasn't long, but some lowlights that include Shotzi botches a running somersault into the corner and looks like she almost kills Indy, but Indy was supposed to, like, I don't know if it was supposed to miss or something, but she gets up and no-sells it like nothing happened, even though it looked like it killed her. Even Wade Barrett was confused on commentary. Then there was like this full Nelson slam, which I think it was by Indy, and it was more like a full Nelson, like, place her gently on the mat than a slam, and it was a near fall. So this is just Indy Hartwell is really green, but I think she has potential. And Shotzi is sloppy and reckless. I've talked about this before. She's Jeff Hardy, like,
Except
when he's
not
20.
good at all.
So this wasn't a high-profile match by any means, but it was my worst match because the others on the list might have been disappointing and not very good. But I thought this was just bad, and it won my worst match of the year. So Shotzi did get an award from me. You were wondering when we started.
Honorable mentions to the ladder match with Shotzi and Gonzalez and your pick, but I did pick Shotzi versus Io Shirai. I picked this one because it was awful and because of the disappointment it brought me. Shotzi Blackheart is so terrible, she made Io Shirai have a bad match. Think about that. She was both of our female superstar of the year. She's amazing, and she had a bad match.
Yes.
I don't even think it was her fault.
I just refuse to attach Io Shirai's name to anything worse stuff. I just won't do it.
I don't blame you, but Shotzi Blackheart, you said, is sloppy. She botches. Her moves look terrible, and she brought down one of the greatest wrestlers in the world to a bad match, and I just can't believe that. And some would say the ladder match with Gonzalez was worse, and I wouldn't disagree, but this one gets my pick for being terrible and disappointing.
I'm wondering when there's going to be the backlash against Shotzi for being a little reckless, because Nyla right now has this internet reputation.
Right, yeah. How
she just hurts
Shotzi
people.
not have backstage heat? Like,
maybe she hasn't actually hurt anyone yet, other than maybe herself. Even that dive this past week, she looked
that was funny.
But anyways, we should move on. So now we will move into, this is a tough category because this company doesn't put on a lot of bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that is, what is next on our list?
Worst AEW match.
There it is. Worst AEW match of the 2020.
Yes.
So what do we have?
We got Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara, All Out. This one, again, wasn't completely their fault because Matt Hardy did get a concussion. So they kind of had to...
Which he continued to do a move afterwards.
Right, and they kind of just had to find an end to it. So I don't completely blame them for it. Britt Baker versus Big Swole. We've talked about that already. Cody versus Brody Lee in the dog collar match. This is both good and bad. Like, there were some decent bits in it, but it was very long and plotting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't despise that match too much. I didn't love it, but it
Cody Rhodes versus Warhorse TNT title match. Warhorse is very indie, and he wasn't that great.
I just think everybody else loved this match, like, so much. I thought it was okay, fine match, whatever. Nothing great.
Warhorse did not impress me.
Yep.
Karoshina versus Nyla Rose from Full Gear.
Yeah, that was underwhelming.
And Cody versus Jake Hager, Fyter Fest Night 1.
My honorable mention was Hardy and Cavara. It was over too quickly. There was
I would say so too.
A super dangerous finish that should not have happened. That match should have stopped as soon as you saw and heard Matt Hardy smack his head off that concrete. He should not have been climbing a scaffold or whatever and doing one last move to finish the match. But anyways, my winner for worst AEW match we've already talked about, so I won't say much, and that is the Tooth and Nail match for all the reasons I previously stated. It was bad, and I didn't dislike anything else AEW did close to as much as that, so I will say the Tooth and Nail match. How about you?
Nice. I actually picked Cody Rhodes versus Warhorse just because there was so much hype for, like, Warhorse, this indie wrestler. I was going to give him a chance, and he was just really not bad,
he was okay,
but just, like, he was not great. He was just really
nuts.
boring and just, like, and I just really didn't like it. And I remember Cody Rhodes' TNT title reign being pretty nice. He had matches like Jungle Boy, Sunny Kiss, even Eddie Kingston was pretty cool.
Yep.
In Warhorse, the match just really disappointed me. I didn't like it. I didn't really like the Sin match was in consideration for me, but I really wanted to pick like a match. So this one was really not great.
That's fair. And if I were, yeah, that's a very fair choice. I think it was. People seemed to really like it, and I didn't get it either. Did not
Kinda
think
like
that was
Sting.
a great match. Yeah, I guess. Everybody has their own tastes, I guess. That will move us into worst NXT tag team now. We're moving into our final few awards here.
Yes, I would like to do this one first.
Sure. So
One
nominees?
After the nominees, yes. Breezango, obviously. Not just because we don't like them, but because they weren't great. We also nominated them for best, but that was just because they were champions, and you kind of have to with a lackluster
I didn't nominate
division.
them for best. That was you. Don't blame me.
We got Imperium. They did not do much. They're nothing without Walter.
As soon as Walter left, they were...
Well, as soon as they just kind of moved to NXT, they need to go back to the UK.
Or bring Walter here, but I don't think that's happening anytime
yeah.
soon. So
Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. The start of this team was really not great, and they haven't improved too much.
They grew on me a little bit, though, I have to say.
A little. Everrise, they are not great.
I'm sorry, is this best? Is this best of?
No.
What?
I didn't put them on here, I don't think so.
I didn't put Everrise on here. No chance.
Then I don't know. But they are pretty not great. But they are pretty low card, so it's hard to pick them, really.
They are.
And they're not as bad as some other teams.
Yep.
Raul Mendoza and Walking Wild pains me to put them on there because I did like Legado.
I know, me too. We were, if you listen to podcasts early on when Legado was just forming, we were like, oh, so cool. And then they've done nothing.
Did nothing, yes.
So do you want it to go first, you said?
I do.
Go ahead.
Picked Imperium. They won the titles from the Broserweights while it was Riddle and Thatcher filling in for Pete Dunne. They won the titles, and they did nothing. I swear, I do not remember them defending the titles at all before they lost in the Breezango. They were perhaps the most low-profile and boring champions I can remember in NXT. They devalued the tag titles in the division so much because they did nothing. I honestly remember them doing nothing during the reign.
And to be fair, we like them, and we think they could be a really good, awesome tag team. It's just they did nothing with them.
Right, I just don't remember them doing anything, and just... I don't know.
It just was like, Walter's gone, put them on the back burner, and then they just left them there.
Right, and they just really put the tag division out of relevance. I don't know, they just... It's not like they did anything outright bad. It's that they just did nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have potential to be really good when you're starved for tag teams. This is a good tag team.
Right.
And they were just wasted. I agree.
Yeah, and then the division's lackluster anyways. But.
They were my honorable mention. They should have been good. They're absolutely lost in North America
part of it.
without
They should have been good, but they just were so low profile, and they were supposed to be like the main tag teams. Not even like they're Everrise, and they're supposed to be low profile. They were low profile, and they were the champions.
How dare you criticize Everrise? How dare you?
Did.
My winners for this were actually Mendoza and Wild.
I thought you picked Breezango.
They have been a tag team for a long time and have accomplished absolutely nothing. And I wanted to like this group, as we just talked about.
Kind of similar to Imperium.
They give me nothing outside of their cool theme and their attachment to Escobar, who I really like. These guys are decent wrestlers. That's not what I'm saying, but they are completely inconsequential, and they've been around for a long time.
Like, some of the criticisms, it's not because they're bad wrestlers.
No.
Sometimes it is, like Shotzy, but like it not always is. Like,
no, of course not.
Both of these teams are very good. It's just like, for Imperium, for me, it was like just nothing during a title run. These guys, it's like been kind of similar. They're just not moving forward.
Right. So you're in WWE, so they don't care about tag teams already, and you're not a main event tag team.
So you're screwed.
So you're really like double screwed, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then in that column it says Everrise are awesome. How dare you? I put that in my notes as well. So now let's move on to this.
Can't deny a bad team, Dad.
In the company that has more tag teams than anyone, let's talk about who we think their worst tag team is, and that's AEW worst tag team. Nominees, sir?
So we got SCU, the first ever AEW tag champs. Daniels really did slow down in the middle of the year, but I think they kind of made a comeback towards the end of the year. They had the good match against Jericho and Hager, and like they were in that decent multi-man tag that we just saw.
Right.
So they did make a decent comeback, but for the most of the year they were just not doing great, and that's why they make the list. Chaos Project. They had that match on Jericho's anniversary special. There's a reason this team's on Dark.
Yes.
TH2. How dare you, sir? Did you actually put TH2 here? I did not put TH2
I don't think I would put them there either.
I would not push TH2 here.
I don't.
They are on Dark a lot.
I did
they
very
don't
little
do much,
for this.
but I really like them. So.
Yep.
Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. They are fine.
I don't mind them.
They did have that decent, I think it was like the no DQ tag against Jericho and Hager. That was pretty good, remember? Right. Nightmare Sisters, yeah, they're not great.
My honorable mention went to Chaos Project. Just in the limited bit I saw them, they were so bad, and just Luther shouldn't be doing anything. I don't think, right? Like I'm sure he was good at some point, and he's friends with Jericho, and that's why he's around. But nothing he did looked good. But
And he was in the Nightmare Collective.
And I'm sort of going against my both of my honorable mention and my winner are not high profile. My winner is the Nightmare Sisters. This is one of the numerous things Brandi tried and failed at this year. This was
Nightmare Collective.
An awful, pointless team that garnered no interest from me whatsoever.
Nightmare Collective.
Neither member of this team can wrestle. No offense to them, they can't really. And there was no real division for them to compete in, so I wasn't sure
just the tag
why they existed anyways. Yeah, there was going to be nothing beyond that, so that is my worst tag team of the year for AEW. You?
I picked Chaos Project.
Yeah, that's fair.
I remember their match being really bad. And
really
then,
bad.
Even there was another thing that Luther was involved in when they attacked who accidentally hit Cody or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything I see Luther do, he just looks really bad.
And then there's this added for me, like, you call yourself Chaos Project, right? That you're supposed to be some destructive force, whatever, and you can't beat anyone ever. So it's kind of it's extra lame for me.
Like I said, there's a reason these guys are on Dark. I would say maybe a little too profile for a pick, but just their match was so bad.
Yep.
Maybe honorable mention, I would say the Nightmare Sisters and SCU.
Fair enough. Okay, so now we will move into our worst overall tag team. So of the nominees are the winners of our previous two.
I have to say Imperium because Chaos Project are just too low profile for me to pick them.
Yep.
And Imperium, they were such bad champions. Just like they did nothing, and that you can't have that.
I took Mendoza and Wild. Similar reason, the Nightmare Sisters didn't really have as much time on TV and weren't together for very long. And Mendoza and Wild, I feel like, were together for a good chunk of the year.
And the Nightmare Sisters never had much potential to actually do something.
No, and Mendoza and Wild do. So for that reason, they are my overall worst tag team.
Yeah.
All right, moving into the individual awards now. We've got worst NXT female wrestler. Gee, I wonder who you're going to take for this. Go ahead and run down.
Charlotte Flair. She's main roster, but she competed NXT, so she counts. She did nothing for NXT. She was a detriment to NXT. She took the title off of one of their top stars and gave nothing in return other than Io Shirai winning the title, but Io Shirai didn't even beat Charlotte, so...
Fair enough.
Shotzi Blackheart. Oh, yeah, I'll talk about that after.
Yeah, we all know.
Toni Storm.
Yep.
She's not great in the ring, and she hasn't improved when she returned. I honestly was mad when she returned. And Aaliyah.
Always Aaliyah can fit in this category.
She's got better this year.
She actually
had
though.
a rise in in prominence this year.
She's still bad, but she got better.
I don't think it really mattered.
And she's kind of disappeared from TV for the last.
You pick first because.
I also added Indy Hartwell to the list.
Okay, that's
but
fair.
My winner, so honorable mention was actually Toni Storm. And a lot of that is because she is high profile and she's, in my opinion,
she had so much hype. She's one of those people.
She's so overrated by so many people, I think. In
my opinion, dare I say, she's the female Kushida. Because, like, so much hype, and then she's just not good.
Yep. I think she's okay, but she isn't great, and she hasn't really gotten better since I started watching her. It doesn't feel like. But my winner, I can't believe I'm saying this, Jackson, is Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah!
So I hate to pile on Shotzi. Because I know Jack's going to pick her, but she is sloppy and reckless at times, and there's almost always a couple bad spots in her matches that I notice, or some sort of general awkwardness. That combined with the fact that she got a ton of attention this year on NXT, clearly somebody in the company or a lot of people like her, so I really hope she does get better.
In other words, clearly someone in the company is out of their minds.
But for the amount of awkward and borderline botched things and the amount of attention she got this year, I'm going to also say that it is Shotzi Blackheart, assuming that's what you're about to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
Just keep it quick because everyone knows. You've already told us.
She makes me cringe every promo.
Yes.
Like I said, she just can't cut a good promo. When she does, she ruins it. Like you said, she botches a lot. She is honestly like the original Sin Cara. And I do dislike her so much. I chuckled when she botched that dive and kind of hit her face off the ground. I chuckled.
That's nice.
And yeah, just she's been too prominent for someone so ironically green, because her hair is green. But she's just green, sloppy, botchy, and just the worst character and just promos and entrance that I've ever seen. She's just everything she does. Ugh.
And I've been watching her since before she was in NXT. I've seen her on the indies and stuff. But I never, like, sometimes I'll see people on the...
She's so indie.
Sometimes I'll see people on the indies and I'll be like, oh, I see that person's I can see them getting signed. They're really good. I didn't see that with her. I didn't think she looked great. But
I honestly wonder what she's... I remember seeing her in the Rumble and being like,
She's clearly up for anything, so they have plans for her. So I hope she just gets better.
She's just not good.
Okay, moving on. We're now moving to AEW, and we're going to talk about worst female wrestler of the year for AEW nominees.
First, Brandi Rhodes. Woo, she sucks. She's not even a wrestler. Allie. Ooh, she sucks. She was actually decent in Impact, I remember.
She's not great in the ring. She's okay.
Yeah, she was. I just remember her being at least better in Impact.
Yeah.
Not necessarily good, but at least better. Teaming her with Brandi Rhodes isn't exactly going to help her.
No.
Chris Statlander. I thought she was supposed to be good. Like when she debuted before she got the alien gimmick, she was actually like good. Remember?
I think she's okay.
And then she just started to kind of not be that great, kind of slow.
Right.
And Big Swole. She's AEW's Shotzi Blackheart.
So for me, my honorable mention was Brandi Rhodes, but I didn't think she wrestled really enough to win, so I chose Big Swole. I went with Swole because she's really weak in the ring, and she had a pretty prominent role at times.
Much like Shotzi? Like, honestly.
She is ironically neither big nor particularly swole. And despite her noticeable charisma, I do think she has that. She's very limited in the ring, and she had the worst match of the year for this promotion. She's one of the weaker parts of a weaker division, and that can't be good, so she quote-unquote wins this award.
Mm-hmm.
For you?
I'm just so glad that we're agreeing on these ones.
You took Swole as well?
It makes my heart very happy.
Yep.
Yeah, credit where credit is due. She does have a bit of that charisma.
She does.
You can just see that. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Like Shotzi had those decent promos, but she didn't ruin them. And Big Swole does have that charisma. I'll admit that. But she is abysmal in the ring. Her promos are not very good. And she just, like, her matches, like, she's just not good. She bores me. And at least I can say one good thing about her. She has not been on TV for the past few months.
That is true.
But she is the Shotzi Blackheart of AEW.
So unanimous. Big Swole and Shotzi.
Worst overall?
Worst overall. So the winner of the two previous awards are our nominees. So who are you taking? Or do you want me to go first?
Do you want to do it at the same time and see if we get the same one?
We won't.
Okay. Shotzi.
Yeah, you're taking Shotzi. Go ahead. Any rationale you want to discuss other than what you've said many times
Her promos
tonight?
make me cringe. Her matches make me barf. I don't like her at all.
Okay, I actually chose Big Swole because here's my reasoning. I liked one or two Shotzi matches this year, right? I think Dakota Kai, and I can't remember another one.
Candace?
And while she is
Games.
While she is for sure more reckless and dangerous than Swole, I also think that at this point Shotzi's technically a better wrestler.
But at least Swole, in my opinion, has a decent bit of character work in that charisma.
But I can't remember any Swole match, at least her part in it, that I thought that I liked. So
I guess, but I don't think Shotzi could have a good match with someone else bad.
She quote unquote wins again. So Big Swole for me.
Yeah.
All right,
Shotzi has to be carried to a good match though.
Moving into our last 3 awards, I believe it is, for male wrestler. So worst NXT male wrestler nominees, please.
We got Bronson Reed, who did see a rise in prominence this year. He was pushed into the North American title ladder match and looked like he was gonna win, and then didn't, and then did nothing. And he's not that great in the ring. He's a pretty nice looking finisher.
I like him.
Other than that, I don't like him. I was beginning to like him. Like, to NXT's credit, they were making me start to like not totally hate him, and then they just stopped with him, and I just didn't really care anymore.
I struggled with these last few categories. The male one, I don't think anyone's really that bad. So it was a struggle for me.
Velveteen Dream. Speaking out, allegations definitely didn't help him this year, but he just didn't do much, and he was actually pretty good last year. So it's just, I wish he did more.
Yep.
Kushida. This guy has been so hyped.
We're not fans.
I've heard him in Japan as like this incredible wrestler, and honestly I gave him chance after chance. He's just bad. And then they were like, oh, he's got a new serious attitude. Literally the only thing that changed is he started wearing jeans. Like,
well, they would tell us 7 times every 5 minutes that he's serious.
They said. Dexter Loomis, this guy is not great. He puts people in trunks. He draws things. That's literally the only good thing I can say about him. He's a good artist.
Okay, I don't mind him.
Isaiah Scott.
He wouldn't make my list.
I do like him, but he just kept losing and didn't do too much. He has gotten a new kind of character change, so we'll see where this goes. But not a great year for him.
Yep.
Jake Atlas, I don't like him.
He's just very bland at this point.
He debuted in the tournament. He was bland. His finisher is way too convoluted, and I just don't like him.
Okay.
He's He's not great in the ring.
Okay.
Bland, and I think he needs more work.
Okay.
And then Mansoor. I don't like him.
Did he really? How many matches did he have?
I don't know. I didn't put him there. I don't think so.
Of course you did. I didn't put any of those on there.
I don't remember putting him there.
I wouldn't have even thought of Mansoor to put on there, to be honest.
I don't remember putting him there, but he's not good.
Okay, my honorable mention is Jake Atlas. It's going to be very similar reasons to my winner, just less exposure on TV and on pay-per-view for me. And my winner is Kushida.
Nice.
Sure, he's a talented guy. I don't deny that. He's just not interesting to me right now, and neither are his matches, character and in-ring. He's not appealing to me. He was really hyped upon his arrival. He's really accomplished next to nothing. He's had some all right matches on a roster that has great matches on a regular basis. He may not be the worst talent-wise, but for me, he was the worst and wins this award. Sorry, Kushida.
I also picked Kushida. He's probably very talented, and I'm not going to beat around the bush with that, but he's not shown me that. And that almost is worse than being bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you can be bad, and then I can criticize you for that, but if you're, like, actually, like, people are saying you're good, and, like, you're not terrible, but you're just not showing me that you're good, then it's just almost worse, because, like, I almost know that it's possible, but it's just not being shown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it for me. He just hasn't shown me that talent that's supposedly there. And his character work is bad, if there even is any. His attitude change was non-existent. It was more of a wardrobe change.
Yes, it was. And them just telling us
and
things.
He is just, if he was less prominent, I would have picked Jake Atlas probably, or Bronson Reed. But
I feel like Kushida, for me, there's still potential there because I feel similar to him as when Io Shirai came over. Because I'd never really seen much about her. She came from Japan, and I'd heard she's amazing. She's amazing.
I know we say this about a lot of people, but we need a heel turn here.
She got here, and I was kind of unimpressed and just whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, she's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world now. So I'm hoping the same happens with Kushida, where suddenly I see what everyone's been telling me about, but this whole still dressing kind of like Back to the Future or whatever thing had to stop. And I don't know, he just needs something new.
Yeah, he just has a bad gimmick, and he hasn't shown me that he's good.
Right. So he wins that one.
Yes.
Now we'll look at worst AEW male wrestler. So nominees,
so we got Shawn Spears. This guy was cool in WWE, like in NXT at least. He had potential. If he was in NXT now, he would be an ideal North American champion. But he just really has not had a great year. He's like always been undefeated or whatever on Dark. And then he had a lackluster feud with Scorpio Sky. And
the only good thing he did was that last little promo he had at the end of the year. That's it.
That's not going to save him.
No.
Christopher Daniels. This guy is a legend, but he's really slowed down this year. And like I said with SCU, towards the end of the year, he turned it around a bit. I'm not going to lie. But for the most of the year, I know you were really
he has definitely lost a step or two, but you're right. The last couple matches have looked better.
He turned it back around. But
so maybe he was fighting an injury or something, right? Who knows?
Luther, he's been mostly on Dark, so it's hard to pick him. But the matches he's had that I've seen, or the things he's done that I've seen, have been awful.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yes, he would win for me if he had more TV time and more matches.
Yes.
He's my honorable mention, just to spoil that.
He is mine as well.
Yep.
Jake Hager, he's not great. I also kind of improved towards the end of the year. The match with Wardlow was pretty nice.
I have liked a lot of his stuff lately.
But for most of the year, yeah.
Yep.
Colt Cabana, again, towards the end of the year, like the tag match with the Bucks was actually pretty entertaining, but I just never liked him. He is so indie.
It's a personal taste thing, and he doesn't appeal to me
and his in-ring style, I think, is not great. And Matt Sydal, he wasn't in AEW long, and he's been mostly enhancement talent. Poor guy botched his finishing move on his debut.
Do you know what my plan for him is now? I just had today.
What?
We get Miro away from Sabian, and Sabian and Sydal form a tag team.
That'd be kind of cool.
I knew you'd like that. I mean, they'll always be a mid-card tag team.
I could see them as tag champs. Not just
I know you could,
Sabian.
But you're not booking AEW. So.
I know, but they're both good wrestlers though. So.
Anyways, I just thought of that today. I thought that would be a good combo.
Don't even say anything mean about kids.
So as I said, Luther was my honorable mention, and my winner here again, good Canadian boy who I actually really like and think has potential and is a good wrestler. But the year he had, and that's Shawn Spears, right? He had several gimmicks this year. All of them were lame. He did I know it was looking for a tag partner,
right?
Getting a loaded black glove. I don't know. There was something else in there along the way.
Rebuilding.
Getting a manager, right? And he had no matches of any consequence. His most recent promo was his best thing by far. I hope his fortunes change because he has. He should not be this bad, basically, right? And he shouldn't be bad enough to win this award. But with the year he had, he does for me. So sorry, Shawn Spears.
I also picked him too. He's just had a lackluster year. A guy with so much potential, and also a genuinely interesting signing. And I think they also honestly could have just replicated something similar to his WWE gimmick, and he could have been a firm fan favorite. And they booked him as heel, which had potential as well.
I like that he tried to get away from his WWE gimmick, and I'm sure that was his choice.
But he's just really done nothing, and he's been at the top of the card, or like not at the top of the card, but he's had decent prominence, and he just slid down. He was on Dark for most of the year afterwards, and just hasn't done a lot.
Nope.
And honorable mention Luther, he sucked hard.
All right, and that takes us to our final award for the year, and that is Worst Overall Male Wrestler, and it's obviously a choice between our previous two, which we agreed on, right? So,
yeah.
Who did you pick for this one, or do you want me to go first?
Do you want to say it at the same time?
We can try.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Kushida.
Shawn Spears.
Aww.
So I picked Shawn Spears. He's Canadian, and I want to like him, so I feel really bad, but he had a brutal year, accomplished nothing. I hope him being free from WWE would help, but AEW clearly didn't have any great plans for him either. Here's hoping for a better 2021 for him.
I picked Kushida because he just really bores me every time I see him, and I don't like him. So he doesn't show me the talent that he supposedly has. Impact
interruption. If he were eligible, EC3 would win this award for me. He annoyed me in 2 promotions, had one of the worst matches and feuds of the year with Moose, and I actually like both of those guys. He also cut some of my least favorite promos of the year. This guy, if he were eligible, he would have run a lot of these categories. I'm not even kidding. Sorry, EC3, but he would win a lot of awards for me if we were including Impact. So be thankful that we're not. But
nice.
Yeah, so I guess that wraps up our worst of 2020.
Yes.
And here's hoping 2021 is better in a lot of different ways, wrestling-wise, world pandemic-wise, and all these other things. Any final thoughts on the year-end worst of awards?
Shotzy Blackheart is really bad.
Yeah. Who would, we didn't talk about it, but who would, just off the top of your head, would your worst commentator be?
Ooh,
That's
Beth
one
Phoenix.
we should have included.
Duh. Beth Phoenix.
Mine would be Josh Matthews if I could include
just for
them.
Because this is a spontaneous award. Just do whatever you want.
So I would take Josh Matthews. He offers nothing. He and Madison are not a great team. She can be okay sometimes, but they just...
Not with Josh Matthews.
So with an empty arena and Josh Matthews, it makes it tough sometimes. So
what would you pick if you were not including Impact?
The dude that does NXT.
Vic Joseph?
He offers absolutely nothing. Like, if he weren't there, I don't even think I would notice. He never calls a move. I don't know.
He calls tags.
He just doesn't do anything for me. But I think, and also in our best of, I think we neglected to mention Wade Barrett. I think he's doing a good job.
He is pretty good, yeah.
Especially compared to the other guy whose name I can't even remember.
Off one of my picks, if I was including main roster, I might have to pick Otis. He's been pretty bad.
Yep. He's had a bad year.
Or I would have to pick maybe, I don't know, Goldberg.
For worst of the year? For worst wrestler? That's fair. I couldn't even say. I don't really know because
he ended the Fiend's reign, and then also he just did nothing. He sucked.
Fair enough.
And if I had to pick a best for the main roster, just because I don't think we did this last time, honorable mention would go to Drew McIntyre or Roman Reigns.
Roman's definitely dominated the end of the year, for sure.
But Drew McIntyre has had like a pretty good full year, so I might have to pick him if we were considering main roster.
But then again, who cares about that stuff? Because the only real important wrestling happens on Wednesday nights, and we just covered all of that.
Correct.
So anyways, I think we should probably wrap it up, and we'll see everybody on Saturday for our regular show. Episode 26 will be hitting the airways at its normal time, usually somewhere around dinner time on Saturday. So we hope you have time to check that out again. We'll talk about all the usual stuff. Mm-hmm. So we hope you enjoyed this bonus episode on the worst of 2020. And we thank you as always for joining us. And we look forward to chatting with you on Saturday. So we'll see you then. Take care.
Peace.